Hello, students. Some people asked me if I would explain this target 8 a little bit better, identifying if something has a single solution or multiple solutions. That will be on our test upcoming on Objective 2 here in Unit 1. And they asked me specifically to address how you can use the calculator to find this information, so I'm going to use mine as we go through a few of these. So, great thing to start with is to think, first of all, what we notice that's different about these different equations. I notice this one has an equal sign. This one has an inequality. This one has an equal sign. And this one has an equal sign. One of the things I'm immediately suspicious of is this inequality. As soon as I see that, I think this is probably going to have multiple. Not always, but many times it will. When you think about that idea, we saw previously in our notes that we were solving some of these equations, and they had number lines where it was everything at a certain point and lower or higher. We could see that we had lots of things we could plug into x to make this statement true. So it had multiple solutions. That will oftentimes be the case with an inequality. So I'm going to start with the assumption that an inequality has multiple solutions. The rest of them only have, when I look at what else is in the problem, I see we have y to the first power. There are no exponents going on here. And so that makes me think that there's only going to be one. So if we can imagine a little 1 as an exponent up there, because there is one, it just is useless to write it because it doesn't mean anything. We have one solution there. Same thing here. There's only one solution. I don't see any exponent on the x. There's probably only one solution. Now here's where it gets kind of tricky because there's only one exponent here on the y. An exponent of 1, but because this is absolute value can have 0, 1, or 2 solutions. So we need to figure out how we can tell. Quick ways to tell this on the calculator. Whatever you have on one side, you type in on y1. Whatever you have on the other side, you type into y2. Let's give this a shot. Please touch your y equals button. Clear out anything that you have in there. So we start with a nice clean screen. And now I need to start typing in. Oops, sorry, trying to make that a little darker so you can see it better. We can start typing in some information. So I'm going to go back up to my y1, type in 13y plus 48. Now I don't have a y button. We're just using any variable, so it's okay to call that variable x plus 48. And in my y2, I type in the other side of the equation, 8x. So there's my two equations that I'm thinking about. I'm trying to figure out how many times they cross. Now I'm going to start by hitting the graph button. There's one line, there's another line. Now I don't see these two cross here on the screen, but remember, the graphs continue even well beyond the screen. So I'm going to try a different zoom. It looks like these two are going to cross at one point down below. I'm going to try a zoom, and when I go farther down, let's see, I don't know which one I want. I could zoom out. Let's try that. Zoom out, and when you come here, your cursor should be blinking. Just hit enter. It's trying to figure out where you want to zoom out from. So right there, I can zoom out and I see almost definitely they're going to cross somewhere down here. So I can zoom out one more time. Go down to number 3, zoom out, hit enter. And now I can see that these two are going to cross here. They're only going to cross one time. Therefore, it's only going to have one solution. Comparing that to something like this, the inequality that has multiple solutions. What this means is I can still, again, type one side into my y1, the other side into my y2, And I want to go back to a standard normal graph. So I'm going to do that. Zoom 6. Zoom standard window. Zoom 6. And it shows me my two lines. Now it looks like they intersect at one point. But what this is really asking us is if this line has only one place above the other line or multiple. So we've got our coordinate grid here. We have our first line and our second line, and every single point, let's see, this is a less than, so it's wondering if it has anything below the red line. Every single point on this line going down here, and since it goes down forever. Every single point on this line from here down will make this a true statement. So there's an infinite number of solutions. It's everything below this line. Definitely multiple solutions. I could probably plug in x is 0 and make it true. I could plug in x is -4 and make it true. I could plug in lots of different numbers here and make this statement true. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip on over here because we've kind of already looked at something like this. We could look at it quickly, but let's just see what happens when we now do an absolute value. Let's see how many solutions this one has. I'm back in my y equals. I'm ready to type in some information. Remember, to get the absolute value, we use the math button, arrow to the right. In the number menu, we're looking at the ABS, absolute value. Now it's okay if yours shows up and says ABS with parentheses. It means the same thing. 2x minus 4 is within that absolute value. And my other line is at 12. When I go look at the graph, I see that V shape, absolute value. That makes sense. I was expecting to see that. So here's that V shape absolute value graph. Now what I'm not seeing is the line up here at 12. So I'm going to zoom out again. Zoom out and hit enter. Now I see that line. And what I'm seeing is two intersection points. Since there are two intersection points here, that means there are two places, two x values that I could find that would make this a true statement. So there are multiple solutions in that case. So when we start looking at some of these things, the way to tell is if there's an equal sign with no exponent, we're looking at one solution. If we see an inequality, we'll double check, but it likely means multiple solutions because of the inequality symbol. And with its absolute value, we have to solve it to find out. Now in this case, we solved this by hand on page 9 in our notes. But you also just saw me solve it here on the calculator. I can find the intersection point, and I can find each one of those. Now if you need to find what those multiple values are, we're going to use our second trace menu. Second trace takes us to the calculate menu. And since I want to find where the two things cross, where they intersect, I'm going to go use number 5, the intersection. Now my calculator has no idea if I want to find the one to the left or the one to the right, so we have to tell it. Use the left and the right arrow buttons. Don't use up and down, use left and right to just get kind of close to that first intersection point. And then hit enter 3 times. Enter, enter, enter. It should tell us specifically it's an intersection point. We want the x value. One of our answers is when x equals -4. To find the other one, I have to repeat this process again, this time putting my cursor at the other one. Second trace, intersect, enter. Move my cursor to the right this time until I'm kind of close to this intersection. Enter, enter, enter. Intersection this time at x equals 8. So I can find those two solutions. If you need a little bit more practice, we do have this worksheet that helps us out. Some ideas. Again, we can always type one side in y1, the other side into y2, and see what we come up with. So when I see something like this, I can do this pretty quickly in my graph. X squared, here's that squared button, and x, let me touch the right button, there we go, zoom 6, one graph looks like this, the other graph looks like this, and if I look really, really carefully right there, I think I might see 2 intersection points. But I'm looking at where, if there's one or multiple places where this U-shaped graph that we typed in first is below this straight line. I'm going to zoom up on that. I want to see what that looks like. Let's zoom in this time instead of zooming out. I want to zoom in right in the middle, hit enter, and let's see. Yep, definitely. When I zoom in, I see very clearly this graph looks like this, with a nice straight line that cuts across it. Everything in this area has that first line below, or less than, the other straight line. It definitely has multiple solutions. I could just use my trace button, and any of these x values is making this all true. So it looks like up to 1. So from 0 to 1, this would be true. Lots of solutions in between there. Even if you got something wacky and crazy and nutso like this, trust your calculator. Type it in, just like you see it. Open parentheses, x minus 1, close parentheses. Open parentheses, 5x, and I'm going to use this caret button here to raise it to the 4th power. Make sure you tell it you're done using an exponent. That would be using the right arrow key in this case. And I want to know when it equals 0. I'm going to go back to a standard window, zoom 6, enter. Calculator's thinking. Ooh, it's thinking really hard. It's thinking a lot. I wonder if I did something incorrect. X minus 1, 5x to the 4th minus 7x to the 3rd plus x, 0, zoom 6. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, there, we're looking better. Alright, now again, it's got this weird kind of shape going on here to it. Don't know what's happening there. I want to zoom in and see more. Zoom in, hit enter. I'm curious how many times they intersect, and when I see this, I see it's intersecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. This one has 5 answers to it. That would definitely be a multiple solutions idea. So we can use these graphs to help us really understand this idea. When we have exactly 2 solutions, that would be something like, if I just wanted to know where these 2 graphs intersect, when they equal each other. More than 2 solutions would be something like that one that we just saw. Looked like this. and it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solutions, and something that had an inequality with an infinite number of solutions. Anything with an inequality would have something like that. I hope that was helpful. Please watch this video again, maybe pause it a few times if I went too fast. Let me know if there are more questions. Thanks, guys. Bye.